Hi guys, welcome back to a Halloween special of the Nerd Impact podcast. Back with your host Aidan Nathaniel and
hmm
recurring slash new co-host essentially Archie. And the topic today is the absolutely god awful, terrifying Sinister, released in 2012. Um, we've got an awful lot to talk about today, so we're just going to dive right in and get the plot out the way so we can talk about thoughts and feelings. So, guys, take it away.
Okay, so the basic gist of it is that Ethan Hawke plays this crime writer who has in the past written this amazing, like this amazing true crime novel. I can't remember the name of the book. I don't know now
Kentucky
if
Blood.
you,
Kentucky Blood.
yeah,
Yeah,
Kentucky
Kentucky
Blood,
Blood.
yeah, which like got him a huge amount of media attention, which like left an impact on him and his family. And in the ensuing years, has written more, but which have not only failed commercially, but also like been wrong, so have led to killers being let free and stuff.
hmm
So he sees an opportunity to, try and recapture the magic of Kentucky Blood, and he 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 buys a house where a murder happened, where a family of four are hanged in the back garden, and he doesn't tell his family this. Of course, he doesn't tell his family this because it's twisted and disgusting, and we'll get to the issues with that later. And anyway, he in the process of moving, he finds this box of tapes in the attic, which is like various tapes with names like "Hanging Out 2011" or Sleepy Time 98 or whatever. And anyway, the film is basically about him watching these tapes and essentially letting something free. Nath, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, yeah, I would just say that's the basic sort of gist of it,
Yeah,
and that we sort of see each of these films. That the film is very much built around these segments, and each
I
one
think
reveals a different crime,
I think
effectively.
we should get to the tapes as we talk about them. We should
Yeah, no,
explain
no,
the tapes
of
as we
course. Well,
talk
we'll
about
go
them.
through them
Yeah,
sort of chronologically, but
yeah,
basically
yeah,
the best bits of this film and the core of I guess the terror is definitely
yeah,
in these series of films, which sort of I, I guess we won't try not to get too much into the sort of hammy supernatural part of it, but basically acts
yeah.
as a sort of gateway to this sort of uh, pagan deity sort of thing, which we'll get into.
Zoroastrian,
Yeah, yeah.
Babylonian deity thing.
So, and basically, Ethan Hawke, in his pursuit of this new book, basically gets more and more obsessed with sort of tracking down and figuring out the connection between these videos. And as he gets more and more invested, his life starts to collapse around him as more and more terrible
Yeah,
things start to happen. As the house becomes hostile, and it affects his family relations, and it's just fucking terrifying. I
yes,
don't
it's
think any description that I could do could ever do it justice.
yeah,
I don't feel like I've been a bit long-winded in it, but basically, it's these tapes that he finds are absolutely terrifying. And the film opens with the first one, I believe, sort of context free. So the film literally opens. You have your sort of, I think
That's
it's
the tone, doesn't it, really?
yeah, it
yeah.
really sets the tone perfectly because I think you have sort of momentum pictures and you have your,
Wait,
you
no,
know,
no, wait, no, no. The first scene is literally just them hanging. It doesn't
yeah,
like
Yeah.
with the tapes. It usually starts with like kind of happy shots of the family from like an
hmm
unspecified cameraman who could
yeah,
potentially be the creature that the monster that's never specified. But then it cuts to the horror of the tapes, which is the various ways in which the people who have been filmed having fun are being killed,
mm,
which is where
I
the
mean,
horror
let's
comes
not be
from.
around the bush. These are
Yeah,
essentially snuff films. They are
yeah,
snuff
yeah,
yeah.
movies.
yeah,
They are.
Though something which consistently amazes me about this film, and it's very simple and surface level or whatever, but it's one of the scariest films I've ever seen. But the amount of blood in that film is
That, yeah.
non-existent. It's just there's nothing
yeah,
there.
It's
yeah,
more
Like,
based on tension and anxiety and
yeah,
psychological thriller. I mean, this
like
is a
yeah,
psychologically as well. Like you follow the characters almost descent into
absolutely,
insanity and
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
pure
there's
terror.
like in regards to like things that would make this film a mature rated film. Beyond the horror, there's nothing else. If this wasn't a scary film, this would be like a 12A or a PG,
yeah,
But
yeah,
these tapes,
There's only one tape that I think shows a bit of blood, and that's
yeah,
the on the bed.
Sleepy
Sleepy
Time
Time
Yeah,
98.
98, yeah.
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 That's the only one that has a bit of blood. But the director, Scott, is it Scott someone?
It's I know who you're talking about. I don't remember
Yeah.
his
So
name. Yeah.
the director basically said he didn't want to make this a gruesome, violent film. It's not a
Hmm.
Yeah,
slasher film.
yeah,
It's a
Yeah.
horror film,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
he kept the elements of suspense and thrills as his techniques. And god damn,
yeah.
he nails it. If I'm honest.
Absolutely masterclass in it, honestly.
I
Like,
think something that has to be said, which I have been saying for years now, is the music. The music is just
Yes,
sublime. Like
yes.
so well paced.
the thing about the music, I don't remember where I read this, but like they deliberately sought like small artists, like artists who
Mm.
make scary, weird, atmospheric music. Like this is not your typical soundtrack, and the music really shines during these tapes. Like Sleepy Time '98 has this
Oh
song
God.
called "Sacrifice." It's just
It's
scary, scary
fine.
music.
Yeah,
It's
It,
just uncomfortable to listen to, which is
it sort of has this
yeah,
almost like ritual sort of chanting in it, but it's like
yeah, yeah,
there's these overlaying clashing sounds, and it's just because
yeah,
honestly, the footage in the films are quite simple, right? Like it's just
yeah,
a sort of almost found footage, like kind of
yeah.
portrayal, but it's so like
With
you're
the
so
music, it
i-
becomes something else.
yeah, it's an
Yeah,
almost like transcendent, I think,
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
horror
yeah,
experience in terms of like
but
you
one of my
feel
yeah,
favorite
in the front seat, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite tidbits that I looked at last night is apparently um, Ethan Hawke did not watch these tapes until filming his scenes. So his reactions
Oh,
are his reactions to watch them the first time, and then they just put the music over it.
They're
So
yeah.
pretty,
and they
they're
are
pretty
good, and
well
it
made tapes.
makes sense as well because like there's one bit where he's watching the sleepy one.
Yeah,
He turns away when the boy it
Yeah.
goes to the boy and starts
Yeah.
drinking the whiskey, and that was
Yeah.
yeah,
his actual reaction. But
yeah,
that is a reaction I would probably do. Like it's weird how you can kind of watch adults being brutally murdered, which sounds sadistic, but when it comes to kids, there's almost a line. And
Yeah.
then when that bit
Yeah.
happens, he turns away and starts necking his whiskey, which I thought was really good.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, we'll kind of the plot we've kind of touched on, but I think we can touch on the ending after we've spoke about the tapes because, as you
Mhm.
yeah,
said, he
Mhm.
discovers each tape as he goes along. So the first one he finds is, the one we see a snippet of at the very beginning, which is the hanging
I
Yep.
think it's
Hanging
garden
literally
out.
called
party.
"Hanging Out" and
Hanging
then
out,
Yeah.
yeah,
11, 11 as in 2011.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it basically starts with as I said, it's just a humdrum normal day. They're playing in the garden. I think they're having a barbecue.
mm,
The little girl is swinging on a tire rope or tire swing, whatever you want to call it, and then it just randomly cuts out and then cuts back to the family being hung. You
yeah,
see like a tree saw cutting the branch, but you don't see who or what is cutting it.
Mhm.
It snaps and they hang, and that is literally the first tape over with and done.
I mean,
and then
one of
no,
the
say what you're going to say.
one of the
Sorry.
defining
Yeah,
features of these tapes is definitely the like seamless switch from happy family times to suddenly horrific murders. Like
yeah,
there's just a seamless switch that there's not like a cut or anything. It just like it goes straight from one to the other with no sort of build up or anything. It's just, and I think the way that that's like so natural is so uncomfortable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That like
yeah,
it's not
Especially
like
as the first time viewing, like you don't obviously expect that. You're just seeing a
yeah.
video thinking, oh, what's going on here? And then literally out of nowhere, it just cuts them dying.
Yeah, and I think
and that's where the music comes in as well.
Yeah,
of course,
absolutely.
Yeah,
yeah,
It's
but
amazing.
unnerving, and that's what the point is, but the music makes it even more unnerving. Like, it's not
God, it's
fun to watch these murders, but
yeah.
then the music just makes you go, okay, I'm really uncomfortable here. I mean,
Hmm.
I've watched this film at least 4 or 5 times now, and even watching it last night, I was kind of sat there like I'm really tense right now. Like this is really messed up, and I'm not okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, carry on, carry on.
I was just gonna say that I'm definitely a kind of person that isn't. I'm not comfortable with tension, like I can handle, like Saw and all that, like the gore fest, because you kind of know what's coming, but the tension in this movie is impeccable. Like it's just sublime. Like there's so many times where I was thinking something would come or something would happen, there'd be a jump scare or whatever, but they show so much restraint with all that.
Mm.
There are jump scares, and I won't spoil it, but
They utilize them like scarce jump scares so well, so
yeah.
well.
So there's such an enormous amount of time between each one that you're just building up that
Mm.
tension, and you know something's going to happen. You can feel it and you know it. And I think it does this brilliant sort of breakdown of where, like, as the movie goes on, it sort of switches between night and day. and you have that day
Yeah,
where everything seems all right. You see Ethan Hawke, talking with his family, they're all, talking about school and all that sort of thing. And then each night scene gets progressively more and more tense. And I think they just do it brilliantly, and it really adds this sense of intense discomfort.
What does so well with this horror film and other horror films that do the similar thing is I like horror films where you're as clueless or as clued up as the main character. You
Hmm.
yeah,
don't know what
Yeah.
other things are going on. You don't know, oh, that's going to come soon because it takes away from it. You are
Hmm.
literally
Hmm.
sat there with Ethan Hawke's character just going, what is going on? I have no idea
yeah,
what's going on. What's going to happen next? And the more clued up he becomes, the more clued up you become. And then you're like, shit, what's going to happen next? And I think that works so well because you're just as tense as he is and you're just
Yeah.
as,
Yeah.
disturbed essentially. So yeah, after he watches that, obviously, he then finds more tapes. And what is the next one? Is it Sleepy
It's
Time?
sleepy time.
I don't think it's sleepy time.
It
It's
it
not sleepy
is.
time.
I'm pretty sure
Nah,
it's no, it's
dude.
the pool one.
I
It's
know
the
it,
pool one. It's the pool.
Yeah, yeah,
God, the pool one.
yeah,
Jesus
that,
Christ.
that's that's like a horrible way to go. So
yeah,
yeah, the family again. It's just another humdrum pool party. That's it, pool party. And they're just chilling in their backyard. They're swimming, and then it literally seamlessly cuts to the family all tied up on like sun loungers, duct
Yeah.
taped in them, and they literally just get pulled into the pool by a rope and they drown. And that's
yeah,
it. You
You
don't see
see,
anything else. You just see them drown.
yeah.
Um, I think this is the first time you then witness the creature.
You see
oh,
him in the
I shit
reflection in the
myself.
pool.
Pretty
No, no,
much.
no.
Yeah,
As soon as he showed up in the pool, like there was no build up. He's just in the water. I shit
Yeah.
myself. I was just like, no. I thought there'd be some tense and like all that build up, but then no. It just shows him stood in full color in the pool. I
But what
just couldn't
makes that
handle it.
worse, and they obviously do it later, is Ethan Hawke's character then records it on a video cam so he can go frame by frame.
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, and he constantly lingers on that frame. He's trying to print it and stuff, and you're waiting
Oh
for that jump scare
God.
of him to like pop out or move, and it doesn't happen in that aspect
Yeah.
or that moment. And again, it really puts the viewer on edge because I was the first time and I forgot when it happened, so I was like, when does he do that? When does he turn around? When does he make this jump scare?
Yeah.
And he doesn't straight away. So that was a great one. Um, then he watches the next one, which is
It is sleepy
is that
time.
it's
I'm pretty
sleepy
Sleepy
time.
sure.
Time?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This one's the most graphic
and has
one.
the
Yeah.
scariest music in my opinion.
Yes, yeah, I'd
Yeah,
agree there.
yeah,
You mentioned it was sacrifice, right,
yeah.
Archie?
Yeah.
Sacrificed by a ghost.
By
Does
Gast.
I
anyone
just
else want to
just just type
discuss this
in.
one?
I'll talk about this one, but let me finish. Nath, when you're looking for the link later, just type in Sleepy Time 98. It's easier.
Okay, will do.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, it's this one is, like Aiden has already explained with the other two, it's like the humdrum sort of family life thing, but then it cuts to a dark interior of a house, and the camera's going up some stairs and goes into a room, and it's people tied up in the bed, like parents clearly, and there's a
God.
dog in the middle, a chihuahua barking, and the camera just goes up, like the sort of shaky handheld camera goes up to the face of the father, and he's clearly really zoned out, and a knife appears here and cuts, and it cuts to
Oh,
Ethan Hawke looking at the camera, and the kind of did you see the cut happening on the reflection of his glasses, which is a nice little touch.
Oh God, yeah.
And
mm.
then it carries on to the mum, and then to the younger sibling or the other sibling, and then it ends. And I'm pretty sure you see Bagul in that as well, although I can't entirely remember.
He
N-
he goes back and looks because he
Yeah,
sees
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
pool, and I think he's by the fridge at one point. He's in like the
yeah.
doorway of the fridge. It's not as clear
Oh no,
as the other
shit.
one.
We've missed one, haven't we?
No,
Which
that's
one?
the
It's
next one, I think.
is
The
it
car.
the car? I thought the car
I think
comes.
the car's the first one, isn't it?
Oh
No,
wait,
no.
no. The car is before sleepy time. Yeah, the car's before
Yeah, I
sleepy
thought
time.
the car's
Oh,
before
okay.
Yeah.
sleepy time. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you see, I don't know what it's called. I think it's picnic or something or
They're
barbecue.
all,
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
they're
the
all,
barbecue,
yeah, the
barbecue.
fishing. The fishing, aren't they?
Yeah.
yeah,
The
they're fishing,
Martinez
and
family.
then
Yeah.
yeah. They're
So that
fishing,
was
and
one of the
then they get
earliest crimes.
Yeah, go on,
yeah,
Naf. You can take this one then.
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
basically you see a family at the seashore with the same sort of, filming angle, sort of very
Lakeshore.
lakeshore,
Yeah, yeah,
very sort of found footage style, like from the bushes, someone's filming them. They all look very happy, they're having a picnic by, you know, the lakeshore, and then you see them go to the car, and then it sort of focuses on the car, and it seamlessly switches to this car later on. It's sort of pitch black. There's chains all around the car, and it sort of pans around the vehicle, and you see the family tied up, taped up, tied up in the car, and you see a flammable canister in there, and it sort of pans to the front. You see the sort of this sort of occult symbol painted on the bonnet of the car, and then you see someone just throw a match into the car and just burst into flame. And I swear you see someone moving about like flailing within
Oh,
the flames, and it's just
um,
they, they, they handle these brutal murders with so much like it's so understated. Like with
Yeah,
with with the pool party, all you see is just a bit of the foot moving, but you know that they're horribly drowning, and
I think
yeah,
that's what makes it so good.
it's so
yeah,
unsettling because it's not
It's
like
leaving it to your imagination.
yeah, and that's what makes it worse is that and they do it frame it brilliantly in the way that you are put in the same seat as Ethan Hawke, that you are you know reacting to these films and watching them along with him, so you feel more invested within it.
yeah. The thing is,
Um,
like,
yeah,
uh,
go on.
was actually my point actually ties into all of them. So I think we should probably finish the films before I make my point.
So the next one, I don't remember if he watches this straight away or there's a bit of
No,
time between the
no, he
last
he
one.
he
Oh
waits for
God,
this
this
one.
fucking
This
next
Yeah,
one
one.
is the fucking
Jesus
worst one in the
Christ.
entire film, and it's got me again last night. I still don't pace myself
I
to remember
just,
when it happens.
oh God, I wasn't mentally
Yeah,
prepared for that. Like I looked away. I looked away.
yeah.
Like I, I didn't believe. Like, oh God, oh,
And the music again,
the
this is one
music,
of the only times where the jump scare kind of music comes in but works so well. So, again,
absolute
this time
chills.
actually, it's even more humdrum because they're literally this family is just sat in their house watching TV,
Yeah,
and then this person walks into like I'm assuming like an outshed and picks up a lawnmower, and what works so well is the music is very quiet, it's quite tame,
yeah.
and you're just watching this lawnmower. You don't really know what's going on. Then out of nowhere, the fucking body just pops up out of nowhere, and the lawnmower goes over. You don't see anything, but it's the fact that you're so lured into a false sense of security that by the time the body comes out, you literally are just it catches you out off guard, and yeah, like every time it catches me off.
Like I had
I
a feeling.
literally again last night.
I had a feeling it was coming. Like when they put so much focus on the on as soon as they went to the like it's called yard work, I think. As soon as they went
yeah.
Mm.
to the lawnmower, I was like, holy shit, no, 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 no. And so I had a feeling, and then like it slowly like increases in speed as you see the person sort of push, and then the body just comes out, and and this like Ethan Hawke's character, like he legitimately like freaks the fuck out, and I did the exact same thing. I like looked away from the
And I
iPad
think
screen. I was like, oh
that's what makes the knowledge of him watching these for the first time even better because he genuinely shit himself watching
yeah,
that one.
oh, such a.
Yeah,
I mean, one of the we have mentioned, well, as we've you said that he hadn't watched these films before, but Ethan Hawke does a phenomenal performance in this. He really,
yeah.
really
Yeah.
conveys that kind of obsessive and like, self-destructive pursuit of trying to figure it, this sort of, crime out. But his
I don't think
reactions and
he cares.
everything.
He doesn't care about the crime.
No,
No.
but
I
he
don't
is
think he doesn't
obsessed
care
over
about the
it.
crime.
He is obsessed over it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. No, he's obsessed over it, but for not, he doesn't care about the crime. He doesn't care about helping people. He cares about being famous.
yeah, yeah, and
And I
you
think
see
that's
Yeah,
that,
something
it
we
yeah,
should
deliberately
yeah,
touch
frames
on.
that.
Yeah,
yeah,
they do touch on that, which I think is good. I think they show the morality of his character because
yeah.
after watching some of the snuff films, he then goes and finds like a VHS of his first interview where it was about actually the true crime. It was about,
Yeah.
he was doing it for the love of the craft, not the money.
Hmm.
And then they're like and then he watches another one later about
Actually, I would go as far as to say that even then he didn't. I think from the
you
very
reckon?
beginning that Ethan Hawke's character was all about the fame.
Okay.
I think that film, his character is literally just some guy who was lucky and will do
Mm.
anything to get that luck again, to get that. He doesn't like he doesn't tell his family they're moving into a crime scene. Like
Yeah, that
look at
makes
the
me
way
Yeah.
he
laugh as well.
responds. Look
Yeah.
at the way he responds to his kids. Number
Yeah.
one, drawing the thing on the whiteboard. His son having night terrors. His daughter. Like this. No, he doesn't care.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
not.
I agree there.
He performs really, really well. He does really well. He does a really good job, but he is not a nice character. He's not a
Yeah,
nice person.
I would
Yeah,
definitely agree with that, that he's not framed
yeah.
as a good person in this,
No, he's
which
not.
is, but at the same time, like, you know,
I thought that's the only time I thought, and that's why I said it, but that's the only time I kind of thought maybe there was a point where he wasn't
yeah, yeah,
greedy, but then he watches like the interview afterwards where obviously he's like, oh yeah.
I
and
think I
both
think
have a family,
I
but
think I think maybe he deludes himself into thinking
mm,
that he is committed to the justice of it. I think it's like at the beginning he obviously don't want to admit on like TV that the only reason he did it was to be famous and to make huge
well,
amounts
he
of
makes
money.
that joke though, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I think he's trying to deflect that
Mm,
from the presenter and the audience, but also to himself. I think he genuinely deluded himself into thinking that the only reason he does this is for the justice, but in
Hmm.
reality, it's the
Yeah.
money and the fame and the success.
well,
You
actually, the
know?
more you say this, the more I agree with you because
Yeah,
what sort of like person, unless you're a narcissistic asshole, keeps interview tapes of your
yeah, yeah. I mean,
going
that's
to number
that's
one?
just
That's true.
like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
one time, like the one time he succeeded, like
Mm,
he
He's,
watches those tapes. He's got a whole thing full of various interviews that he watches on repeat. I mean,
he's chasing former glory, right? Like
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
he
Yeah,
wants to recapture that. And like his wife even says that to him, like, she's like, well, maybe Kentucky Blood was your, 15 minutes and to,
yeah,
yeah.
let it go, but
yeah,
he just can't.
yeah. And in the
Actually,
process, he dooms his family
yeah, but
and
also going
himself.
back, and I know this is kind of spoiling the ending now, but
Yeah,
we'll eventually get there. But the
mm.
last line is the daughter going, "Don't worry, Daddy, I'll make you famous again."
Yeah,
So that kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
ties in
oh,
nicely.
But
Yeah.
now that we've talked about the tapes, I actually have to bring in a
Calvin,
criticism
my love.
that I have with the
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Um, like whenever I talk about Sinister, when I talk about it with Nathaniel with other people, I always mention that the beginning of the film is the best, the first
Mhm.
half of that film,
Yeah.
because the beginning is subtle, it's scary, it doesn't tell you anything, it leaves everything up to the imagination, and then the
Yeah.
rest of it is just explaining. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
almost expository.
Hmm.
Like well, I keep thinking, I don't know if you guys have seen it. I know Nath probably hasn't. Hereditary.
I've seen
Yes.
Hereditary, yeah.
Okay, so I know
Not a fan.
I know Nathaniel doesn't like Hereditary, but Hereditary doesn't specify anything. It leaves
Mm,
the whole cult thing up to the imagination.
yeah.
Like but then and then at the end it obviously has its big crescendo, and that's obviously a bit hint. But imagine if Sinister had existed, where the whole idea of the ghoul coming out of the films and possessing had been subtle and left to the
Yeah.
imagination instead of specifying it, instead of telling
100%
you.
agree.
Yeah, it's just like that would have been so much better. It would have been an actual masterpiece instead of half a masterpiece, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Half
That
a
like
if they
masterpiece.
had
That's a
just
good way
if
of
they had
describing the
just
film. Yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
Like when I
no, you're absolutely right.
yeah, like when I first got into horror, which was thanks to Amnesia: The Dark Descent in the game, I kind of jumped into horror literature quite heavily, specifically Lovecraft and stuff, and I had this kind of like pretentious view of horror. I was like, I'm not going to watch these horror films like The Conjuring and Sinister and all that because they're they're mass market, they're whatever. You know that classic sort of teenage boy, look at me, I have better taste than everyone sort of thing. But then I watched Sinister, and like the beginning was expert. That shit was fire. Except, and then the second half was and then then I watched a whole bunch more of them, like Insidious and The Conjuring and stuff, and I liked them. But to me, the first half of Sinister is like a notch higher, and then the second half is like the rest of them. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
Agree.
that
not
makes
bad,
sense.
but
That makes
not as
sense.
good.
Hmm.
You know, just
Like
nowhere near as good.
the ending is somewhat terrifying because of the obviously result of it. But
Oh,
if that had happened without the you know explanation of Bagul's involvement, and then it just happened,
yeah,
and you had the whole thing that they've moved and they were next in line and the timeline's been sped up. Keep
Yeah.
that bit in, but don't have the full blown. This person comes out of the videos or the
yeah,
media
I,
or
I
whatever and will kill you and take your child or whatever.
yeah,
Leave that out. Just leave and leave it again. If you left that bit out, what the hell happened to the kid? What happened after she did what she did? Like
yeah.
what
I
was Bagul's involvement?
It makes you
Yeah,
think. Like it leaves it up to
yeah,
the imagination. Like I think the thing about horror for me personally is like with Ligotti, as you'll see when you eventually read him, it's
mm,
not specifically about the story, it's about the atmosphere and the way it makes you feel. Like I think it was Lovecraft who said that horror is all about intense emotion.
yeah,
mm,
You know, like it's
mm,
not necessarily about the content, it's about the atmosphere, the sort of theme, the way it makes you react to it. Like it's scary as fuck. But when you over explain something, it stops being scary. Like especially when it's not real. See what I mean?
I,
I think about let me finish my point here now before you
okay.
talk. Let me explain what I mean. I think like with made up stuff, like especially supernatural horror, if you explain it too much, it becomes just that TV. It becomes made up.
Hmm.
Like, and if you're going to think about it too much, then obviously you're not going to be able to be scared of it. But if you have to make it subtle, you have to let the viewer, the reader, the player imagine. Because if you explain it, then it just becomes something that someone created and showed you. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
You know what? A great example, and it's not the greatest film, but
Yeah,
something that does that is Paranormal Activity, for example. The first one, because
I haven't seen that, to be
they
honest.
started lore dumping after the second one, but the
Yeah.
first one, there's no rhyme or reason really behind it. They give you a sense of why it might be happening, but it's very
Mm.
much left up to your own devices. The ending's quite ambiguous. It leaves you to your own
Yeah.
devices.
If you
It's not a scary film. You know, the jump scenes and all that are a bit, on the nose, but I found it more creepy because of the ambiguity to it. And like you said, I think if Sinister had played that card till the very end, you'd have had probably one of the greatest horror films of the
Yeah.
recent decade.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the Blair Witch Project, which is obviously one of the most famous horror movies ever made, the
Yeah,
OG found footage horror film.
yeah,
That film, I've never seen it, but I've watched tons of like analyses of it. It's literally just some guys running around in the forest getting scared at like weird stick shapes.
yep.
You know, there's nothing specified. The last scene is some woman talking to a camera, then a scream and nothing else. You know,
And
it's
that's
dark
terrifying.
and
yeah,
claustrophobic, and
that's
it's the
terrifying.
it's the suggestion of something
Yeah,
existing beyond what the viewer, the person consuming the media can see and potentially imagine. It's
Because
and
making
that's the
them
thing.
scared of the what if, what exists, what
Mankind
could
fear
exist.
what they don't understand and what they don't know.
Wait,
So
hold up,
leaving it
I
in
need
that
to
ambiguity,
find. There's a very famous Lovecraft quote.
yeah.
Lovecraft.
Nafoy whilst we're waiting.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just going to say that,
Um,
um, I think the problem with Sinister overall in that regard is just it's overly long. Like, this is an hour and 47 long minute film,
you
I
think that
think.
film's long?
I think
I
it's,
think it
f- I,
paced very well,
I,
actually.
Yeah,
I think it,
I've never.
I think it
More.
was way too long. That I can only stay tense and invested for so long before it gets like tiring and like towards the end I was losing interest because like I've been so tense and so scared for so long that I was just like, ugh, like it starts to drag. But if it was a
Yeah,
slightly like maybe half an hour shorter, and as you make some of the cuts and like get rid of some of the scenes with the deputy and all that sort of thing, I think it would
yeah.
have flowed and been so much more punchy and more just raw horror. Because honestly, there it takes a while to get going. If I'm being fully, like it takes about half an hour into the film before you start seeing the first films and actually getting any semblance of sort of anything scary, I suppose. So
I just had a thought actually. You mentioned getting rid of the deputy. The deputy is the reason you actually get any explanation. The deputy brings in the professor.
yeah,
The
yeah.
deputy connects all the murders. If he hadn't brought in the 'cause, like Aiden mentioned earlier that you are, especially at the beginning of the film when Ethan Hawke is first consuming the films,
Hmm.
you're in his seat. You are learning as he learns.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but then when you oh god, what's the point I was trying to make? God, like it was to do with the deputy coming in and becoming like a set. Oh, that's the thing. If you had kept it in and kept it claustrophobic and not brought in other characters, it would have left Ethan Hawke in this sort of claustrophobic and lonely scenario of trying to explain something that is inherently unexplainable. You
Yes,
know? Yeah.
yes, absolutely. I fully agree with that.
Um. So yeah, get rid of the deputy. And in fact, Sinister 2 shit because it's all about the deputy, in my opinion.
I've
To be
not
fair.
watched it, but I've heard
Yeah.
it's junk.
Yeah. He's
However, I will say the one thing that the deputy brought is I like that he was the one that they could have done it with Ethan Hawke's character, but I like that they discovered that each person had lived in the previous house and they were next in line, and because
Oh,
they'd moved
yeah,
out, they
yeah, yeah,
sped up the
yeah.
timeline. Like
Yeah,
if they'd shuffled that around so Ethan Hawke's character was the one to finally clock that, I think
yeah,
that was the only bit of crucial, you know, kind of lore or backstory that you needed really to make that more terrifying and a bit more understandable. Left everything else out, fine, but kept that in because that's quite terrifying in itself. You've just found out that you've sped up your timeline or this
yeah,
killer because even to
you
that point, the deputy still thinks that it's not Bagul, it's just some killer. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
just like
yeah,
you moving out of the house that was last in line has now meant you are now next in line for sure,
yeah,
and that's terrifying. Like even at the last, like I know you said, Nath, that you were kind of flagging towards the end. When I heard that the first time, I was like, oh Jesus, like that's bad. And then obviously it ends 5 minutes afterwards.
yeah. I have the quote, by the way. Let me quickly read
Yeah,
it.
yeah, go for it.
So this is Lovecraft's quote. I think it's an essay he wrote. I can't remember the name of the essay, but the quote goes, The oldest and strongest emotion in mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
Like
I like that.
this always I mean I love thinking about this. Like I like thinking about those old times before science, before mass travel and trade and all that. Imagine living in some small village like in the middle of the Scottish Highlands where you could only really think about the edge of the glen you're in. What's over that next hill. Imagine seeing the sea having only lived in a small village. Like imagine seeing that shit. It would just blow your mind. Unknown, that shit. Making like getting the imagination going. That's what good media should do in general. Like I'm not
Yeah,
saying that ambiguity is like fundamental to everything, but with horror especially, ambiguity is like the most important thing to nail, in my
yeah,
opinion.
agreed.
Over-explaining horror stops making it scary, like over-explaining comedy and a joke stops making it funny.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. That's
Like
a perfect
yeah,
analogy, actually.
let
Yeah.
let let the person react instead of explaining why they should react.
Hmm.
And
You know,
also, what adds to that is then the subjectivity to it, because if people interpret it in different ways, it creates a conversation, it gets a dialogue opening, and
yeah,
that makes it more memorable. It gives it more, longevity.
yeah,
Because of this ending, there's no, okay, I know we're going to eventually touch on it, but Inception's ending is forever still one of the, most diverse endings ever.
Yeah,
People,
very divisive.
did, did
Yeah.
the top or did it not? To this day, people are still trying to, argue their point, and that's it, part of its legacy now. But with something like this, if they just left that, it'd be better. Go on,
I'm afraid I actually really, really need the toilet. I won't be long at all.
that's fine.
I'm
No
sorry about
problem
this.
at all.
Just carry on going. I'll be back in a sec.
I mean, where did that sort of leave us off plot-wise, I suppose? Because I think we haven't
So we
covered
spoke about the
all
lawnmower. It was
it
the
was,
lawnmower bit.
God,
Yeah,
I can't say enough how terrifying that lawnmower bit is. I think
it is that. Yeah.
if you're just gonna watch a small clip of the film, just watch the lawnmower bit.
Well, it
Like
sets
in
the tone
isolation,
really. Like,
God, it's terrifying stuff.
I mean, yeah, picking up from the plot. So obviously, after he discovers that, he kind of starts to think, okay, enough's enough. I'm pretty sure by that point he then is like done with the tapes for a while.
Hmm.
But he keeps hearing noises at night. His eldest son is having night terrors, so every time he hears bangs, he assumes it's him. Uh, the first time it is, and then
Hmm.
the second time he goes into the loft, he is attacked. Well, he falls through the roof, and then after going back on the recording, he sees
And then back.
ghost hands on there. So
Yeah.
we're just talking about the plot moving forward.
Mhm.
So then after that, obviously he flip flops with whether this is the right thing to do. Um, and then eventually he yeah, then when he burns the tapes, doesn't he? So
Yeah, well,
after
I mean, I
into
think
the day, he
yeah.
decides that he's losing his mind. Like he falls asleep one night
Wait,
on the sofa.
you missed well, the reason he burns the tapes
Because of
because he
his son.
goes up. No, no, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no.
Oh,
He burns the tapes because he goes up into the thing and he sees all those
oh,
children
that's
They're
right.
watching,
kids. There's
and
that whole
then the
segment.
pool
Oh
appears.
God,
Yeah,
there's that whole segment where he's like, he basically hears noises at night, and so he starts
yeah,
moving through this house, and this is one like the best night scenes of the film. And so he's walking through
Oh
this
yeah.
house, and he has this bat, and he's looking at all these things, checking every room, and the way it's framed is that behind him at every stage there's this dead kid, and like
That's
yeah.
right.
they all like start running towards him or like creep around behind him, and they go through each one, and it's oh it freaked me the fuck out that
I've
like
just missed out a key jump scene in a bit that was really well done. Is when he's still looking through the tapes. He has the picture of Bagul in the back garden, and he
oh
Yeah,
holds it to the
yeah,
window. And then as he moves the picture down, he's in the garden,
oh
and
God.
that freaks him out. That was a really good. That was like a well timed jump scare.
There's also another I don't know if we're ruining it by talking about the jump scares, are we?
which one are you
I mean,
talking
they
about?
still get you. They
Yeah, they
still
still
get
get you
you.
Yeah,
because you
dude.
won't know where it is. But
Like, I
there's this
watched them 5 times and they still got me. So
Mm.
there's a one that I thought was brilliant is when he's going on his computer, he's going through all like these re-recordings, like he's going through frame by frame, and he looks away from the screen,
Mm.
and on the screen he's got this big picture of Bagul, and Bagul like turns and looks at him, and then turns
Yeah.
back in. I'm like, oh, dude,
Yeah,
like,
and there you go. We were waiting for it in the original time
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
going through his
yeah,
files, and then
yeah,
I think they leave it long enough for you to think, okay, it's not going to happen, and
yeah.
then they
Yeah.
obviously pull it back.
And
Oh
instead of them
God.
making it jump scare, it just happens
Mm.
without you thinking about it. It just happens out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Bagul
yeah,
moves his head slightly and then turns
Because
back.
Hawke's character doesn't even
Mm.
notice it, but
yeah.
again, that's one for the audience, and yeah,
Mhm.
perfectly done. But yeah, sorry, I saw. Yeah, after he sees the kids, he goes up and sees them in the loft. He falls back down, um, and then he hears something outside. Goes out and he finds his eldest, who's had another night terror in the bushes.
Yeah.
Um, he takes him in and thinks, this is it. But then goes back out, and then there's a dog there. Have I done it in the wrong
No,
order?
no, no. That's right. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
he's
he
when he
he's
goes
when
back
he's
got
out. He
and
says he
the
left
the
something
dog's
outside.
yeah.
barking. Yeah, the
Yeah.
dog's barking, and it's all the kids are behind him, which is what the
Yeah.
dog's actually barking at. They disappear. The dog goes away. He goes in, then burns the tapes, doesn't he?
Yeah. He goes back
Yeah,
outside and burns
burns
them.
the tapes, and he's like, "I'm done with this."
Yeah,
And
there's
then
too much.
we
And
get the
then
whole
they
montage.
immediately leave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they decide to go back because another bit that's sort of important is they're in between houses. So they brought the murder house, but they're waiting for the sale of their original house to go through. So
Yeah.
they end up moving back to their original house. After the cops pull him over, and he's like, "No, we're going." So they leave him. They're fine with it. And then when he's unpacking in his old house, he finds the box again, the box that he burnt.
Yeah.
Which again was well timed and paced. And then when he opens he actually boots the box and panics and is like, no, this isn't true, it freaks out. But then he sees a packet with um, the label on it, extended cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you guys can take over from here. So what
And
do we see in the extended
the
cuts?
the extended cuts are basically just additions to all the previous ones, except you see the children.
Hmm.
The children appear at the screen at the end, and they smile and they whisper. They do this, and they just smile and giggle. They did like
Well,
sort of
Yeah.
just
thing.
to be clear, the
Yeah.
children are the camera people. Like they're
Oh
the
yeah,
ones committing
yeah,
the
yeah,
crime.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The
they're the
children
ones.
have been Bagul. The quick explanation of Bagul to completely ruin the whole thing. Bagul is like explained away as this old, like kind of Babylonian pre-Christian deity that existed in the kind of Middle East, so like Zoroaster and all that sort of thing. Who was whose thing is like he's called the Eater of Children. Not a very subtle name, but
Yeah.
it works, whatever. And what he basically does is like he gets them through the medium of these films. He comes out and they're watched and like steals the youngest children, makes them kill the rest of their family somehow using he drugs they get drugged, and then he takes the child into his world with him, which is what the final scene of the film is, because she's watching this like kind of film, and then like Bagul appears, picks her up, and takes her into the film. Yeah,
Very,
Yeah,
very
so that's the
terrifying.
extended
yeah.
cut. So yeah, yeah, that's the ending, and then you have the last final hurrah jump scare where Bagul kind of jumps out at you at the very
Yeah.
end of the film, kind of.
Yeah,
I think it's to make the such dark ending a little bit less dark and more jump scary because I think if
It's
you walked away
also
with
it's
you
also
got
the suggestion that like I mean again it's not a very subtle suggestion, but the whole idea like Bagul comes out of the TV, make you come out to you as well.
Yeah. The
Like
film itself is Bagul's tool.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a whole thing to be said about the kind of meta nature of the film, right? You're watching a film within a film.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
all comes from films. Like it's about media and the way media affects the mind and stuff. Like no, 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 it's not. It's not like they took that to the utter extreme. I'm a big fan of meta. Like you'll see in
me
Thomas
too.
Ligotti that he's also a fan of meta. But like I feel like a lot of meta, especially like older meta like that, like not like I don't want to criticize Deadpool or whatever, but like that to me feels like surface level meta. The kind of meta I like is where you're unsure if it's meta or actually part of the world itself. That makes any sense? Like there's this
Yeah,
incredible short story that Ligotti wrote, which I'm going to very quickly summarize, which is literally called Notes on How to Write a Horror Story, and it starts structurally where he basically goes through various ways in which to write a horror story, from the gothic to the nat to the realist to the whatever to the experimental. And when he gets to the end, when he gets to the experimental, it turns out the guy explaining how you need to write a horror story is in himself a demon. It stops
okay.
being an essay on how to write a horror story and it becomes itself a horror story. You
Wow.
know?
Ah.
Yeah, like
Yes.
that sort of meta where it stops being meta and becomes a story. Like
Mm.
but that's taking it. That's like a different type of meta. Like Deadpool and stuff is just self-aware, but like, yeah, yeah. Like, thing about Deadpool and stuff is he looks at the camera and he is aware that he's in a story, but he isn't almost because of this. He's not quite bound by the rules of the story. Imagine like the meta-ness of it is still bound with it very much within the laws of the story it's telling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
That's
that
that's
makes perfect
that's the
sense. Yeah.
that's the kind of meta that I like personally.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's not painfully self-aware and like
yeah,
It's
reductive,
yeah.
not a
you know?
literal wink at the camera, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Wink
Yeah.
of the camera shit. That's why I used to like Deadpool, but not anymore, I'm afraid. It's just like I like postmodern meta stuff, but not wink wink, haha, look at me, I'm self-aware meta. It's just like
Mm.
not for me at all.
I think a series that kind of did it quite well is Supernatural, actually, especially in their earlier stuff.
I haven't seen Supernatural, I've been meaning to though.
I mean, there is a literal episode where they fall into a realm where they play themselves, but their characters are like, oh, we're douchey celebrities in this reality. So that was that, that was kind of taking it to the high end, but
Mhm.
um, it's a very self-aware series, as in like it recognizes fans, like fan casting and shipping and stuff. Like they do
Yeah,
a musical episode where some teenagers are, well, actually the whole plot, I won't spoil it too much, but the whole premise of Supernatural after like season 5 is this guy they meet is writing a book about them, and this guy is essentially God, and he's writing a book about the two brothers.
hmm
yeah,
So they're kind of like following the story a few steps behind.
yeah,
Again, it's that's the kind of meta that's clever. It's
yeah,
not winking. It's like a subtle wink, not literally like look like Deadpool, like kind of holding up a sign, going like, "Look at the meta humor we're doing here."
yeah.
Um, yeah. Anyway, back to Sinister.
Mm,
Yeah, you're right. I think it is it is quite self-aware in itself, but again,
yeah,
like you said, it's dealt with very well. Um,
yeah. Well, it's dealt with very well up until the
until
tapes
the
stop
end.
meaning anything. No, until the tapes stop being a thing.
Yeah,
When it becomes traditional, basically. Like
yeah,
the
and
beginning suggests something more, basically, which is
I
not
think
never
the
explored.
ending does. I'm divided on the ending because I
Mm,
enjoy how dark it is, but
yeah.
because you've been explained, you've had an exposition dump essentially.
Mhm.
I'm a bit like, okay, I'm not great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm divided.
But I mean, like, despite the criticism that we've heaped on the second half of the film, I still love the first
Oh
half.
yeah,
God,
Like those
yeah,
so
tapes are
good.
just heaven. I mean, I
yeah, they
love
are
them.
so
Like
good.
it's just like as horror goes, that's just easily watchable and genuinely terrifying, even a few watches in. Like that shit's scary.
Yeah, I mean,
Scary,
like I said,
scary,
this is my
scary.
fourth or fifth watch, and I still
Yeah.
tense up watching the tapes. I
Hmm.
think, yeah, like you said, it's only really the second half, maybe the final third, where the tension starts to slow down.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
Yeah.
it's essentially after he burns the tapes. I kind of
Yeah.
was like, okay, it's a breathing period, but it's not a good breathing period. I'm a bit like, well,
Mm.
what's going on now? Like, I'm a bit like, are we done here then?
yeah. I
Yeah.
think feel like it really fundamentally broke the tension of the film, if you know what I mean. Like, it, I think if they just kept it, like I said, like cut out like half an hour of the film, just kept the pace up a bit more, had less explanation, and had, you know, maybe this of course the final sort of murder actually happened in the same house rather than having that disconnect period where they go to a different place and all that sort of thing. I feel like it kind of it lost me a bit, you know?
Or even
Yeah.
jump cut, so just have them literally him burn the tapes and then them back at the old house and have a tiny bit of dialogue that explains why they're back. Then have the murders.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
think, like you said, the transition from getting into the car, the cops, then talking to him, and by then you're a bit like, oh, I think we're coming to the end here.
Yeah, and I feel like again, there was just too long of a period without any tension. So like to build it back
Yeah.
up again is really difficult. Like it's lost at that point. Like you're sort of out of it. The immersion's lost, and it doesn't. So it doesn't really hit the same the ending. But if
Yeah.
they'd taken out that whole segment and had it, it would have been like impeccable because you would have had that constant
Yeah,
tension all the way throughout. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, just it's not like don't watch the film, but it's just there is a point at which the steam does get a little bit lost.
I do have a recommendation for a horror film, which is of the same kind of thing. It's like it's not like indie, but it's not like super high budget, and it flew under the radar of everyone because of COVID, and it had
okay.
barely any advertising at all, which is a massive shame.
You're gonna say The
Also,
Empty Man, right?
Yeah, the empty
Yeah.
man. Yeah, it's like concept of it is really dumb. Like it's like the sort of internet idea of if you go on a bridge and you breathe into a bottle 3 times and then say the empty man, he will appear. That's like
Okay.
the classic urban legend thing that teenagers
Yeah.
talk about, right? Like it sounds stupid, but it's so much more than that. Like that, the film is amazing. It starts like that and explodes into something else. And it's also a graphic novel if you feel like reading it
Oh, nice.
afterwards.
It's
Yeah,
I
no,
think it's a
But
definitely.
cosmic kind of horror. Would you
yeah, it's
say?
cosmic. It's
Yeah.
Lovecraftian. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the problem though for those watching is it is like 2 hours and 45 minutes long.
Mm,
It's a
okay. A bit,
long,
a bit of time to
long
invest.
movie. Yeah, I watched it over 2 days. Like treat it like a mini series. Um,
So I want to talk about what I briefly mentioned in our last episode of the
mhm,
podcast now, when I was kind of hyping up what we were going to watch.
yeah.
So it has been dethroned as of last month, but they did a scientific scare project,
Okay.
Forbes magazine,
Oh
Yeah.
and
yeah.
this was actually rated the number one scariest film.
Oh,
Um,
what dethroned it?
it's a 2021 movie. I think it's called Hush or Heart or something like that. I'll have to have a look. I haven't got
Wait,
the
Oh,
name
what's
of
is
it.
the
that the one set about those kids breaking into that deaf blind guy's house or whatever?
No, 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 no,
Is that
no.
not it? Oh,
wait, hold
That's
on.
Hush. That's
What's the
Hush.
name of this?
So
Forbes scare? What?
it's a Forbes magazine scare project. But yeah, basically until this other movie, um, this movie basically won because it had the highest average heart rate of 86%, 86, sorry, and then spiking to 131 beats per minute.
that would be the
So yeah,
lawnmower bit. The lawnmower bit.
No,
yeah,
according to this one on this was published in 2020. Sinister's number one
yeah, it
still.
got dethroned literally last month by something.
Where is it? I can't find any mention of it on
I
Google.
definitely saw it. Sinister. Let me have a look. Movie ever. I'm pretty sure that it's been dethroned because it was on the news. Yeah, there
Um,
you go. No longer the scariest.
what's the new one called?
I'm just gonna have a look. Get rid of the cookies. Um,
I just don't know what could actually beat it. I haven't heard of anything, good enough, right? Like,
Yeah,
I don't think there's been buzz
yeah,
enough.
I'm just trying to think. This is
yeah,
Host. It's called Host.
just host.
Host.
Oh, oh, it sounds like shit. It's a frightening quarantine horror taking place over Zoom.
Oh,
Oh, I've
That's
seen
um,
that. I've seen that. Yeah, yeah. That's actually kind of scary. It's like, um,
okay.
because
is it as scary
no, no,
as
God, no,
Sinister?
it's not as scary as Sinister, but
Essentially, the only reason it won is because the average heart rate was 88 instead of 86.
Oh, okay,
two
fair
beats
enough.
per minute. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
I'm not. No, 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 no.
That's
Get
quite a
the fuck
short
out of
film.
here.
That's like I don't think it's even an hour.
Yeah, yeah, it's 57 minutes long.
Yeah.
And that's kind of unfair because having an average heart rate of 86 over almost 2 hours compared to an hour,
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course you're gonna have a
I
lower
feel like
like
they need
average
to,
overall, right?
yeah, they need to redo that. But yeah, so it's in let's be honest, it still is. It's scientifically proven as one of the scariest films of all time, and
yeah,
I totally agree, to be honest.
yeah. It's the scariest film I've ever seen by
I
far.
I
Yeah,
I would say in terms of like actual terror, it's definitely
Yeah,
the scariest one I've ever seen. In terms of like
yeah,
not you because when you watch a horror film you're like oh that's uncomfortable like oh that's not in terms of actual like legitimate terror actually
mm,
like holy shit I'm so existentially terrified right now. This is the
yeah,
best one I've
the
seen.
nearest one to Sinister that I've ever been freaked out about was the Blair Witch, and I watched that when I was a lot younger. So, I mean, if I watched it now, I don't know if it'd have the same impact. But
I
yeah,
mean
Blair Witch when I was younger was kind of the crown, and then going and watching this in cinema, I was like, nah, this is like driving home was a bit of an issue for me after watching this.
I mean
in general, I know. Say your thing first
I
now.
was just going to say that the Blair Witch is legendary for that, for being such a
Mm.
terrifying film. I've haven't seen it myself. I mean, I just don't think I could handle that. Like, I'd probably have a panic attack, right?
Yeah, I what I was gonna say is in general, I don't find like TV scares me much anymore. It's
No.
usually like games. Like I need an element of interaction.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
Yeah.
like I think Resident Evil 7 is the scariest piece of media I've ever consumed.
God,
Oh, I don't know.
s-
Um,
Outlast. Outlast for me.
Nah. Outlast is gore. The Outlast is just too much gore for me. I mean, I think it's scary, but not Resident Evil. The thing about Resident Evil 7 for me is the creepiness of that house. It's
Mm.
claustrophobic. In
I had
Outlast,
them two games at the same time, so I'm probably
yeah.
was just blending my scaredness into one. But
No, that's
yeah,
fair. I mean, the thing about Outlast for me is that it's like you can run very quickly.
mm,
And the things is Outlast for me is more fucked up.
mm,
Resident Evil, like
Yeah.
again, it has this idea of ambiguity and getting the imagination working. Outlast is more, here's a whole bunch of really, really messed up shit. Let's
yeah,
make you uncomfortable.
Hmm.
While Resident
Yeah.
Evil 7 is like, this is a scary ass house. There's things moving around in the house. You're not sure where they are. There's a
yeah,
scene in Resident Evil 7 which always gets me, which is where you're in the attic, I think. You're going up to this children's room and it's so dark. It's
yeah,
so dark. Even your torch isn't enough. It's just like, God, it's scary. Like, it's really,
yeah.
really
Resident
scary.
Evil
Yeah,
7 is phenomenal. I'm actually
yeah,
due to replay that soon, so
yeah. I
play
love.
myself all over again.
Yeah, that's some clean horror games. And I mean, like even like Amnesia, Amnesia: The Dark Descent, amazing.
To be
Amnesia
fair,
Rebirth,
actually,
not as
it
good, but still good.
not as scary, but definitely caught the atmosphere of the films and stuff. Is Alien Isolation
Oh, I love Alien Isolation.
so
I love
good?
that game. Yeah, that's a good game. I mean, that's a whole other conversation because I think that game drags on
It does.
extremely a bit
Yeah,
too.
it
Yeah,
does.
it's to an extreme level, but it's still good. Yeah.
But yeah, anything else to add on Sinister, guys? I think we covered quite a bit, to be fair.
I don't know. I definitely recommend it. Like this was my first time
Yeah.
watching it,
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
you have guys have seen it, several times each. But for me, like that was the first time sort of experiencing it. But yeah, I don't know. I think in terms of, you know, I fully agree with the music in that. And I was speaking to Archie earlier that like if you want sort of like a music experience similar, I'm just going to plug this because this is one of my favorite albums. I've got to do it. That
Don't read too much into that.
don't read too much into it, but basically, if you want the musical experience equivalent to being scared of Sinister, you should definitely listen to "You Won't Get What You Want" by Daughters, which is basically just a horror film in an album, but it's superb and
oh, okay.
it captures this,
I'm
and
pretty sure that's on our list
it
of.
is on our list
Uh,
because
okay, so
I
we're
want.
scheduled to do an episode on it. Okay,
We
cool.
are going to do it, so you're going to have to listen to it, and in the same way that
Is it an earphone? Is it an earphone
it,
experience?
yes, definitely. You want to feel it
Okay.
all because is it I won't go into it because we will be discussing it later. But what I'm saying is that the music in this film is superb, and it's very minimal overall. Like there's very few segments where there is actual intense music on. It's not scored the entire time. There is very moments of a lot of moments of quiet, which just adds to the tension. But it is superb, and it definitely adds to the experience. But I don't know. I think this is for me definitely in terms of execution and sort of artistry, probably the best horror movie I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, it's definitely up there.
Hmm. Definitely.
And I mean,
No.
Right.
Well,
Go on.
well, I was just going to say that my previous experience with horror films generally is more of the sort of watch the terrible gory ones and laugh at them. Like
Yeah, slashers aren't horror. I know
no,
they put them
I
in that, but
slashers. Nah.
that's its own genre. Is slashers.
The way I.
That they are
the-
funny. Like I think that even the gruesome ones are humorous, I suppose. Like
mm,
Saw and the torture porn ones, I'm a bit like, whoa, gross, but I'm not scared. I'm just like, that's a bit
yeah,
gross.
yeah. It's just visually disturbing, right? But like, I
Like
mean,
like we said, this film doesn't have an ounce of gore by, okay,
Yeah.
the throat slices, but even they're off angle really.
yeah.
Mm.
It's all left in your imagination and the
Until halfway through the film.
unknown. Yeah.
But like the way I look at slasher films is that I like true crime quite a bit. I like spend a lot of time on creepy Wikipedia articles, like watching analyses of like all these sort of people's lives. Slasher films feel to me like normal, well-adjusted people trying to like capture the horror of a psychopath in their writing and failing massively. Because like I find it far scarier to read the Wikipedia surrounding, so let's say Columbine, the Columbine shooting. That is scarier than say watching Friday the 13th or Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like genuinely, like it makes me feel cold, like not quite terrified, but cold and very very uncomfortable.
Is
In
it
Don't
is
in
it
get
the
me
the
way,
is
wrong. I love. I love the slashers. I love the Friday
Yeah,
franchise, Halloween, all that, but I don't go in them for horror. I go in them for the kills. I go in from for the dumb fun
yeah,
brutality of them. I'm not
yeah,
scared of them. The soundtracks and stuff are great, but they're not there for me to go, oh, I'm scared. I'm there to go,
mm,
awesome. Them kills are really violent. I like it. Whereas this film, I was just like, nope, I don't want to. Nope, nope. Like
yeah,
literally at the end of the film last night, I didn't. I'm not. I'll own up to it now.
yeah,
I turned it off before the ghoul popped up at the end, so I was like, I'm going to bed now. I was like, I'm not dealing with this again. Like, I think I've had enough for today, and turned it off.
yeah,
God,
yeah.
I
No,
got it
fair.
full force, man. I just
Yeah, I mean, I
it's
watched it. I
terrible.
watched
God.
I watched the end of it this morning. I watched half of it last night and half this morning. So,
No.
like I knew it was happening, and I was still scared this morning.
Mm.
It's scary stuff. We said that a million times at this point, but it's scary stuff.
I mean, we've said it a
And
million times because we want to get that point
It is.
across, right? That
yeah,
like,
it's scary
if you want to
stuff.
be scared, this is your film, right? Like, I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
anything else could really come close. I think. Well, aside from
True
this
too.
new host movie, apparently
Apparently
challenging the
so, yeah.
champion. I mean,
And
I don't know. I don't think it
I
holds up.
you should definitely watch The Empty Man. I'm gonna say that a million times. That film is so underappreciated. It actually hurts me,
I'm,
like
I'm gonna
violently. It's my second favorite horror film, I'd say.
I'm gonna search it now just so I've got
Yeah, I think you have to rent it on Prime.
I think
that's
I've
fine.
definitely heard of it because it does have a bit of a reputation because there is such a limited selection of good cosmic horror. That's how I've heard
There
of it.
is no cosmic horror, bro. Cosmic
Well,
horror is like non-existent.
yeah, I mean it's very very hard to capture, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty much impossible to capture.
even on film especially, like I don't know how you'd convey. I mean, maybe I, f- I mean I hated it, but I'd have to say
Yeah.
Annihilation does like a
I
decent
love
job.
Annihilation. I love
I
Annihilation. I
hated
hate
it.
the book.
I
The book
hated
is
it.
complete trash, but I like the film. But like the thing about cosmic horror in general, especially Lovecraftian cosmic horror, is that the in the books, especially in the short stories, the creatures are never really described.
Yeah, yeah.
It's always the characters suddenly having like seeing the great unknowable horror, having a mental breakdown and running away. Like there's a comment about like an unknowable mass of tentacles or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
then when with film being inherently visual, you can't really get across something that cannot be described without just making it look silly. Like look at like I'm not saying the original John Carpenter films are bad, like The Thing and stuff, but like that yeah, you can't like The Thing specifically as is a very Lovecraftian story. It's like, like creature lands on Earth, spends years in the ice, they go traveling up, they find something that they shouldn't have found. That is
Hmm.
pure Lovecraft. But
I love the thing. I'm just gonna throw it
yeah,
out there. I do
yeah, I mean
adore
I like The
That is a
Thing. It's
classic.
just
Absolute classic.
as Lovecraft goes though, it's
it. No.
not, it's like by simply showing you, it stops being Lovecraftian. You see what I mean?
However, talking about ambiguity,
Yeah.
the ending of that film again is one that works well for a horror film, and we won't go into it because
Mm.
maybe some way down the line I would like to touch on this film, but the
Yeah.
ending for that film is a perfect example of
To be honest with you, I haven't even seen it.
progressive.
I've just watched tons of
Really,
clips. Yeah, I've just watched clips.
it's worth a watch. It's a good film.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
It's my dad's favorite horror film. No, sorry, it's his second favorite horror film. His favorite horror film is Alien. He saw it with his dad in the '70s when it first came out.
nice.
Yeah,
Like, imagine that hits different, hey, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, my mom's favorite horror. My mom doesn't find Alien scary at all, but she finds Blair Witch scary. My dad doesn't find Blair Witch scary at all, but finds Alien scary. Well, it's
It's
weird
So
funny
taste in
that,
horror.
hey?
fascinating. What
Yeah, yeah,
people
See,
yeah.
are
it's
or aren't
like
scared
like
of.
like for me, I know that I always get freaked out by horror films, or like a monster or whatever. It's always the eyes. Like if they've got creepy eyes, I get really terrified, like in my core. But
Yeah,
if they don't, then I don't get scared. Like it's
yeah,
not,
yeah,
I get scared, but not like petrified, right? Like if it's got creepy eyes, I can't do that. That's too much for me.
yeah. No,
Well,
I
we
agree.
discussed that in our last episode, didn't we? Like, even for kids shows like The Haunted Mask and all that,
Oh God,
the eyes were terrifying.
I,
It's with
I
You
his
should watch.
like
You need to watch that, Archie. I don't know if you've watched it or not, but
what's it
that
called? The
the
Haunted Mask.
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps, The Haunted Mask, like
Yeah, the first
it
episode.
No, I've
just
not seen it.
put yourself into a perspective of a child because it's a child's program, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, of course.
let me know. Like we've already discussed it in our last episode when that'll be
Mm,
out next week after before this one.
Yep.
Um,
mm.
so yeah, but. yeah, have we got anything else to add before we call it a day on this episode?
I don't know. Any
Mm.
general comments on horror at all while we're here? Seeing as it is the Halloween episode, we might as well take the
Yeah, I mean,
opportunity.
I think we've kind of touched on it, but like, obviously, sounds like for Archie, he enjoys horror,
Oh yeah,
especially in, you know,
huge fan of
book,
horror.
yeah, the book,
Yeah,
book medium.
like Thomas
I'm
Legosi
I'm
for anyone
saying,
who cares.
well, I'm hopefully getting some books tomorrow of that, so
Oh
that'll be
yeah,
good.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm a
definitely.
huge fan of horror.
Yeah,
Book form, film form, especially films. You know, we will talk about it more another time because I'd like to touch on the Elm Street franchise because that's where it kind of set off for me as a young,
seen those.
Yeah,
preteen.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of where my love stemmed from.
Okay.
And then it just kind of went from there. But yeah, I think horror it's almost healthy to scare yourself sometimes, I think, and test how much you can take. Because that's
It's
essentially where
cathartic,
my
right?
discovery, yeah, that's where
Yeah,
my
Yeah.
discovery for Elm Street came from. I heard about like Freddy Krueger's a pop icon, and who
yeah,
he is, but I wanted to see how scary they actually were and if I could take it. Because I'm not gonna lie, after the Goosebumps episode we spoke about before this, that scared me. I was quite an easily scared child. I was essentially the Carly Beth of my
God.
world. Um, that name still
Oh
sucks.
God, it's
But
so terrible,
yeah,
man. It's so
yeah.
terrible.
But I think from watching horror films, I've become more adjusted to things and desensitized that sort of stuff. I'm much like you, Arch. I find things that are ambiguous or leave a bit of imagination for me to scare myself more
yeah,
terrifying than your straight up slashers and stuff.
yeah,
And
yeah,
again,
definitely.
but books that are real as well. Things could happen to you. Like true crime, like stuff like that. That's more scary than a psychopath in a mask going around and slashing people up because okay that may happen, but it's not as glorified.
Yeah,
Whereas, Sinister, for example, if I found a box of fucking homemade footage videos, you're damn right I'm moving. I said that in
yeah,
the second up last night. I was like, if I saw that box of tapes, I'd report it to the police and I'd be gone. Even if I
yeah.
was book on a murder house, if I saw them extra things, I'd be like, nah, there's something going on here. I'm out. Like
I mean,
the lot.
the thing about Legotti, which you'll see, is that his horror is very much about the everyday. It's
Mm,
like taking what is completely normal and making it scary. Like one of his best like sequence of stories, you'll see it's in the book you're getting. It's called In a Foreign Town in a Foreign Land. It's just about like an unnamed border town between two countries that's always shrouded in fog. And like it's just weird. It's just uncomfortable. It's a completely normal town, but it's not. It's like it's like looking at places which are normally normal, like a street corner or like kind of a park or a garden or anything, and finding the weirdness in it.
I
Like
like
that
that.
is what Legotti's horror is. It's just tearing apart the normal, tearing apart normality and showing the weirdness beneath.
I like
Like
that.
yeah, that's what he does.
Something that's just reminded me as well, something that
Mm,
Sinister does well is kind of
mm,
flip the head of the trope of the haunted house. Like,
mm,
yes, this is a haunted house film, but it's not. It's the tapes, it's the meaning behind the tapes and the
yeah,
houses.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
Yeah,
a house
yeah.
that happens to be part of the chain. It's not a haunted house because of, burial grounds or ghosts. It's because it was the family moved to that house. And yeah, I like that. I like that they, subverted the norm.
it's actually a
Yeah,
massive. Say your thing first. I have a point to
no, I
say.
said that was it really.
What I was going to say, I think it's actually a massive shame because they put a lot of effort into the soundtrack, the aesthetic, and all that, and the first half of that film, and then just for it to fall apart at the end, like
Mm.
it could have been something truly special, and it just wasn't.
I'm really excited for that. That black phone. Is it the
Yeah,
next one?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Director
That's
of
going to be
Sinister.
exciting.
I've
Yeah,
heard. There's been pre-screen reviews because it's not out until January
yeah,
in the UK.
yeah.
But
I've
I've heard
seen.
heard that it's incredible and
Yeah,
is genuinely scary. So maybe he learned his lesson from the pitfalls of Sinister and has run with it. And
I
it's
mean,
based on a book as
he's made
well.
other horror films since, hasn't he?
Mm. He was supposed to do Doctor Strange 2 and make it a horror film, but backed out because of the studio. So that'd have been interesting
That
take.
could have been
No,
so
no, no, no.
good. That could have been so,
He
so good.
he did The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Deliver Us from Evil. That was him.
Oh,
Oh God,
okay.
I just suddenly remembered. I actually like. I'm not a big fan of modern Marvel, to be honest, and in general Marvel in general, because I just don't really like superheroes, excluding twists like Watchmen, or Christopher Nolan's Batman. But
Yeah.
I really liked Doctor Strange, and then I remember hearing about this sort of PG horror film called Doctor Strange 2 and the multiverse of madness, and I was just like,
I
multiverse of
mean,
madness, mountains of madness, Lovecraft. Whoa,
it could still
yeah,
be what you're expecting because
yeah.
Sam Raimi's directing it. You know, beloved horror director.
What did he
So
do again?
He
Evil
did the
Dead
Spider-Man movies.
And he also
and
did
Evil
the
Dead. Oh, what's the other one he did?
mm,
Drag Me to Hell.
I haven't seen Drop Me to.
Oh God, I remember
Mm,
that. Oh, the creepy old lady in that, and she gets fucking dragged.
yeah,
Oh, on the train. Oh God. Oh fuck. That one's
there
terrifying,
you go.
actually.
So
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
good horror. Yeah, I think unless we've got anything else, I think we are done here for this Halloween special.
Yeah,
Hope everyone's enjoyed it. I certainly have. This has been
yeah.
a
It's
hell of a
always
film
good.
to talk about.
Yeah,
Until hopefully, oh, actually, we're back. We'll be in November by the time this is aired. So,
Yeah, this will go
what
live
are
on
we?
the 31st.
Yeah, what are we looking at potentially doing? Oh, okay. So if everything syncs well, we will be doing Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
My most watched film of all time. I've probably seen that film upwards of 25 times, and I was hopelessly in love with it for a very long time. So I know it's a meme now that there's a whole sort of like, oh, if you like Scott Pilgrim, he's a terrible person, and there's all that kind of,
terrible person. More like just
well,
shallow, bro.
just like the
A
whole kind of
real.
like toxic
Trust,
male kind of
trust
thing.
me.
But
Well, we
I
Wait,
can
is there?
touch on that. We can touch on that.
Are you
we'll
saying?
touch on it all.
Is there a toxic masculinity thing tied
No,
to
not toxic masculinity, but it's like if you like Scott Pilgrim, it's like a red flag. I've seen it before
no,
on
that's
platforms and stuff, but I love it, and I irrefutably refuse to not love it. So it was the first film I bought on iTunes, but we'll get to all
hmm.
that. But I have a lot to say because it's an incredible experience, and it's definitely gained its cult status recently. But
I'll
anyway,
come along for that. It gives me an excuse to watch it again.
well,
Sounds
wonderful.
good. Yep.
But I hope
Yeah,
you guys have
Right.
enjoyed our Halloween special. And if you're looking for something spooky to watch on Halloween, give Sinister a go. I hope we haven't, spoiled too much of it for you. But even if you've seen it, maybe we give it a rewatch because it is still, as Archie and Aiden can attest, it's still got the scare factor. So thank you
and
for joining.
please, please watch The Empty Man. I'm not going to shut up about it. That film needs more attention.
And The Empty Man as well. So you've got
Yeah,
two great options
yeah,
for Halloween movies. So get out there and get scared, and tune in the week after for Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
yeah.